Happy Friday, everybody.
Another Friday.
Another Friday. Esther Dyson, welcome.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. I was just going over in the pre-show because Tom, we have guests, Matt guests and Tom guests, and you fall under the Matt guest category, even though you and I are actually only recently acquainted. But we were giving everybody the spin, and I think it's a great way to get into this. But you and I met on an AI sort of talk, and I feel like I'm in these a lot lately. And I feel like everybody's really curious at a philosophical level of, existential crisis level, you name it, level on AI. And so these groups are always fascinating, but everyone's always got I always take one new thing out of the group. Every time I have a conversation, there's a lot of recycled sort of sentiment. And then there's always like a couple new things. And I really appreciated your perspective on stuff. So figured it'd be a good conversation to have with you.
Okay. And I don't even remember what I said, but
yeah, no, you know what? I think honestly, and then I did some looking after we had met on there on your book coming out. It's not out yet, right? Term limit. Yeah. So, looking into term limits. And it's such an interesting concept because, so Tom and I, let's lay the groundwork real quick. Tom and I have a health perspective always, right? And that's what the show's about.
Allegedly.
Yeah, exactly. But like AI brings a whole bunch of new problems to this, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
It's a prompt. The full title is Time and Scale in the Age of AI. And the fundamental notion is humans are finite, and our job and our opportunity is to make a dent in the universe while we are part of that universe, but not to be a long-term part of the universe, to be a special, unique addition to it. And we live in an age where people are obsessed with exponential growth and immortality, and I want more. No, more. I need more. And short-term, that's addiction. Long-term, it's this quest for longevity that is fundamentally delusional. And also, if I thought I'd live forever, there's so much I'd have to do. And as it is, all I need to do is set priorities for the 80 or 90 years I've got. And then, I want to end feeling I've done enough. Not, oh my God, there's millions of years more that I need to figure.
Well, I think that's a perfect cross-section of health and technology right there. I mean, you really kind of encapsulated something that I think is at the heart of it, right? We only have so much time. What can we get done? And where does that leave us? You're convinced it's enough time.
If you fill it right, yes. I mean, ideally you leave feeling I've done what I needed to. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't need to be.
Didn't need to be. Right.
Happiness is not perpetual happiness. Happiness is overcoming obstacles. By the end of your life, you want to be not used up, but used enough. Useful. But
although Hunter Thompson had an interesting quote on that, he's like, you should go into the grave like wound, spent, wet, put away. It was a very colorful way of doing it. But I was like, I think that there is, in AI especially, there's this like veneer of like, okay, if we do the right prompt or if we have the right data set behind something, that we're looking for this like perfect output, right? And it is counterintuitive to the human condition in general, right? Like that doesn't exist. It doesn't happen, right?
I mean, I want to go used well, but not totally destroyed.
You're right.
Completely spent up in the process is not the way to do it either.
Yeah,
although if you had this conversation when I was 35, I probably would have envisioned a very different end to my life than I do now, right? Like I was a little bit more of a wild person, like little younger. It was a little bit different, but now I think I'm definitely evolved out of that.
Yeah, and you want to have kept on learning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Would be stuck at 35, but 35 wasn't wrong. 35 was just early.
It was just early, yeah.
Yeah, just early.
Well, and honestly, that quest for knowledge is sort of the raison d'etre of this show, right? It's like, why we're only doing this to talk to people about cool stuff. Like, it's not, and we've gone everywhere from near death to, to AI.
Actual science.
Yeah, right. So it's been fun to sort of do that. And I think every show we have, it's sort of another reminder of all the stuff I don't know. And like, there is a portion of me that's like, man, if I had 1,000,000 years, is that even long enough to learn all the stuff I actually would want to learn? I don't know. I don't know that I have a reservoir that has a cap.
Well, with luck, there would be new things happening. So there would be new things to learn. It's not like you can wear it out. I mean, that's maybe being immortal just means getting increasingly bored. That's really sad, right?
That is really sad.
Esther, are you a TV person at all? You ever seen the show The Good Place or heard about it? It's with Ted Danson, okay, and Kath, what's her name? Kristen Bell. Very cute little premise, but at the end, it's about heaven and how bored they were running heaven. Like they were like
when everything is perfect, there's really very little to do.
Right. It's just funny.
So I did actually have a dream. My parents were scientists, and so we didn't have TV at home. But I knew about this show, The Golden Girls. This is more like when I was 30 or 35. And 5 old ladies. I mean, I never watched it, but I heard about it. 5 old ladies living together in some old ladies' home or something. And I dreamt I was a golden girl. It was Saturday afternoon, and the girls were going to go out dancing that evening.
Mm-hmm.
I was in my room. Someone sent me a care package of saltines, and I don't like saltines. And I was sort of annoyed, like, why did they send me this? They could at least have sent chocolates. Then I said to myself, still in the dream, if it's clear you're ready to go. All you care about is the saltines, the important stuff you've dealt with. And I was going to stay at home that night and die, and I knew that. And it was just a feeling of, good, I'm done. And it didn't make me want to die. It certainly didn't make me afraid of dying. It made me sort of think, that's what I wanted to be like. I want to be finished with the important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If all I can worry about is saltines, it's time. So
time, right?
My goal, actually, maybe 20 or 30 years from now, is to retire and die on Mars with 1/3 gravity, so I can still get around. And if I manage to do that, it's not like my life's a failure, but it's sort of one cool thing. There are many cool things. That would be a nice final one.
See, Esther, you know what? I knew I liked your thinking for a minute. You're the only person I've ever heard that said the reason I want 0G is so that I can walk around when I'm too old to actually walk. You're like,
it is actually a fundamentally great thought, though.
Yeah,
it's like
actually is what it is on Mars. But
yeah, so you're really into the space thing. Can we off ramp there for a second? What drives? I mean, I think space is awesome. Quite frankly, I think it's a little terrifying, like just the sort of vastness of it. I'm an astrophotographer. I'm very into the beauty of space. I'm not so much into the travel to it yet. But.
So my father was a physicist, basically an astrophysicist, and knew all the people at NASA, had studied with Russian mathematicians in England where he grew up, and he worked on something called Project Orion, which was a nuclear-powered spaceship in the 50s. And, I just assumed by the time I grew up, everybody would be going to space the way we were all
just built in.
Yeah, the way we were all in airplanes. And so, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I guess it's the Friday alarm.
No,
check.
Yeah, no. We've had worse after, trust me. We've had all animals, kids. You name it. Yeah, we've had.
She just got updated launch codes.
Yeah, right. She's like, I'm actually going to space right now. That's the alarm.
So speaking of that, is somewhere in your bio, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. You You studied to be a cosmonaut?
Well, I trained.
You trained. Okay.
For 6 months in Star City outside Russia. I wanted,
Wow.
I wanted to learn about space travel for real. And turns out most of what you learn is space plumbing and space medicine.
Yeah.
And
I saw your space plumbing comment. I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, so you're trained up in
I wanted
space
to
toilets.
experience Soviet Russia because I've been going to Russia since '89, right after it ended. So Star City was still a government facility. You needed a special pass to go in and out. They wouldn't give me a map because I was American. So the one time I actually cried was because I couldn't find my classroom because
man.
Yeah. But it was amazing and learned a ton, yes, about Soviet Russia as well as about space travel. Spent a lot of time with the NASA astronauts because NASA and Roscosmos were kind of like, well, if you want to use our exercise machine up there, you need to pay us $1 million. Okay, but our toilet is going to cost you $1 million.
Yeah.
And,
right. Oh man, that's funny.
So, but the astronauts themselves, they had their own cottage, and people would be coming through all the time. Trainers, doctors, visiting officials. So there wasn't, in their heads, it wasn't like, oh my God, she's a stranger. It was more like, oh yeah, come join us at dinner. So I got to hear about the Russian guy who, lots of people would try and sneak up bottles of vodka. This guy,
of course,
ripped a sausage inside his spacesuit and burst the zipper.
Oh my God.
Oh.
The stories, I'm sure, were fun. I mean, I can't imagine somebody's not trying to shuttle, contraband up into space. For God's sake, you're in space.
Very successfully.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. On the other side, I'm sure you don't want to be lit in space if something goes pear-shaped.
Goes
right?
wrong,
like,
yeah.
I'm really drunk right now, so this could be a problem.
They managed.
They managed. Yeah,
They managed.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
and the NASA food was much better than the Russian cafeteria. The cafeteria still had a sign on from like the 70s or something that said every pilot is entitled to like 12 grams of meat, 18 grams of sugar.
Wow.
Whatever, per day.
And you're like, what does that even mean? Like, I'd be the nerd in there going, what does 12 grams of meat look like? Let's go. Let's break this thing down.
Not enough. No.
Yeah, not enough. Yeah, that's nothing. So are you still into space? Like, are you, I know you're into a bunch of different things. Are you still active in that?
I'm still, the Mars thing is still in my mind, but it's sort of an intention. It's not a plan. I'm too busy doing stuff, and I'm waiting for Elon to get it ready. Then
right. I was going to say, are you buddies with Elon? Because he's the guy you might want to have to buddy up with to like get that going.
He's aware of that.
Yeah, he's aware.
It's really not urgent. I mean, I'm very busy doing other stuff, including this book and then another book, and
right.
Still investing in. I'm an investor in SpaceX for what it's worth. Yeah.
You're an investor in quite a few things, and like that portfolio is pretty indicative of your interests as well. I mean, you've you are literally putting your money where your mouth is, right? In all these places. What sort of, is there an underlying current there aside from obviously technology is a huge thing for you?
Well, tech and health.
Health,
More health versus healthcare. But so I have this quadrant chart. Learning versus earning, they're inversely correlated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The ones that have problems are the ones you learn from.
Sure.
You make a lot of money on, you put the money in, 15 years later, they go public and it's golden.
Right. And like, that's the sort of interesting, I've been in technology for nearly 30 years myself, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. We build it though, so I'm less on the investment side, more on the build it side. And I think AI in particular, and I'm also on the board of a quantum computer company. And when you start Venn diagramming these things out, right, like you can paint some really interesting futures, right? And I think we're in this, I don't know, for me, it's sort of like almost like a big bang moment in the last couple of years where the universe just popped out of nothing, and now it's just like vast and moving faster away from each other, and it's just been very hard, exciting, but also almost impossible to be like, I think this is where this is going to land, because 3 minutes later I feel like we get news that appends that, and you're like, okay, well, that was a good thought for Monday. Like, we're good now. So I don't know, thoughts on something? I mean, are you seeing similar?
Yes, but I think our challenge is not, oh my God, we can't predict what's going to happen. Our challenge is, oh my God, we need to figure out how to influence what happens so that we don't lose our humanity. You know, most of couples counseling, I like to joke, I have 2 couples counseling companies. One is You and Your Money. It's called The Beans. Another is You and Your Food. It's called Eat My Way. We're a couple with AI, but most people come to couples counseling. He does all this stuff, and he does this, and the first message is, you know, lady, guy, whatever, calm down. Whatever they do, it's your reaction to them that you need to control and understand. And then look at the situation, figure out how can you make it better? How can you manipulate them instead of allowing yourself to be manipulated either by them or by your reaction to them? What is it that's triggering you to react this way? And then figure out, you need to, just as you have theory of mind in couples counseling, you need theory of business mind in dealing with AI, because it's mostly reflecting the business models, often of predatory businesses. Yeah, and there's enough predatory businesses that they kind of rule the roost because they're trying to manipulate you, whereas the good guys are trying to help you see the light. And
I always like to look in the bad actors first, because those are the ones that are capitalizing on a new technological advancement, and like you can pull a lot of sage wisdom out of what they're trying to do, like, I think, and be like, okay, we don't want to do this, but it's interesting that they found this little, you know, eddy that they can kind of operate in, and if you can figure out how to use that for good, that's where the good stuff comes out.
So, I mean, ultimately AI is not going to be a predator, they're going to be a parasite. If the bad ones, they want to keep us alive, they're not trying to kill us off. And if you killed us off, you'd end all human unhappiness.
Right.
Imagine that. But you'd also end all human happiness and all human achievement. And the parasites, they want to kind of suck the good stuff out and feast off the bad. So our challenge is figuring out what we are going to do to use AI and making sure that it's unexplainable people who are the problem, not unexplainable AI.
Yeah, you know, that's a slippery slope, though, because I mean, I use AI to program on a daily basis, right? And I've been programming, let's call it old school way, for a long time before that. So like, I have a pretty decent understanding of what's going on. And I will tell you, at least a dozen times a day, I am put off or surprised by an outcome that I didn't see coming, that the AI came up with. And then as soon as I saw it, immediately I could backtrack and be like, okay, here's where I messed up. And I knew that. But my stakes are very low, right? This is just coding and whatever. Worst case scenario, I delay production by a day, right? 2 days, whatever. If I was talking about like a biological issue or a genome that went sideways or whatnot, like the stakes are a lot higher. So like, how do you sort of, I don't know, that's where I start to be like, wow, you know, we're all talking about like writing emails to clients and, you know, doing dumb shit with ChatGPT. That's fine. You can mess that up all day, but I can't on a nuclear reactor. You know, like that's a different story.
And that's the challenge, because, I mean, it was interesting. I was talking to this economist and he said something about, you know, we were talking about GDP, and he said, you know, now you can build a drone for $15,000 that will destroy a $50 million warship or something. And
right.
He was looking at it in terms of what it does to the GDP. And it's like, dude, you're measuring the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you're measuring destruction.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not destruction, it's value.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, but the big question is, how do we stop the destruction? And, as Trump said, things happen, but there's some things that shouldn't happen, and we should be more careful. So,
and I think when you talk about AI ethics, which I'm not even sure I agree is a area of, I don't know if this should be a specific area of study.
Human.
Yeah, it's like, exactly, that's where I was going, right? It's a human problem. It's not an AI problem. It's not like my ethics are different with AI. They're just magnified, right? Like the consequence of my ethical decisions are amplified if I'm using an AI tool versus not. So I guess we can subclassify.
The consequences are, everything are amplified because AI does in fact amplify your power.
Right.
And, the challenge is everybody's walking about with, in metaphorically, the most contagious diseases and also the most life-saving medicines. Just press an AI button and you can destroy stuff, or you can do incredible good with useful AI that will automate lots and lots of very useful information collection that can then be used to save people's lives, or allocate resources effectively or allocate resources badly.
But in your view, you got a lot of width in this because you're involved in so many companies. Like, how incumbent is it on those companies to sort of own that responsibility proactively and not have to be told to own that? Like, is there a sense of knowledge of this built into that system or not really?
It needs to be built into our culture, not into the.
So is it too late?
Term, yeah, but today,
is it too late
now,
though?
It's not, right?
I mean, when I'm an investor.
Sure.
So first of all, I don't do much consumer investing. I do a lot of B2B.
Yeah.
Because I like things that are fundamentally useful, but I'm just not that interested in tomato farms or whatever. So I want something that's useful, number one. Number two, that's not redundant. And number three, that I can learn from. Right. And then there's the lottery ticket, which is, I don't know enough, and life is so uncertain. I don't know if this thing's going to do a nice IPO in 5 years, or the CEO is going to either get run over by a bus or move to Norway, or
right.
It's just like
have a bad ayahuasca trip in Ecuador. Yeah, I mean anything.
So there's a lottery ticket, and I've been lucky enough. And I mean, the way I distinguish myself from a lot of the AI dudes is I know how lucky I am. And I've been lucky enough to have a diversified enough portfolio that I was able to fund Wellville for 10 years and keep investing. So I'm looking for stuff where I can be useful with more than just money, and where even if the thing doesn't work out, I will feel I have learned something. That my favorite investments are the ones I do with somebody who I lost money with the first time around, but then they learned enough that I like them enough. I watched them learn that I want to be there for the second time. And those are so satisfying. I invested in the guy's education. Now I want to invest in their success.
In whatever they do next. Yeah. I mean, how often do you see, I feel like a lot of times in my world, that sophomore act is very hard it's much harder to pull off almost than your debut, right?
Well, that's the point. Your debut was 0. It was the learning experience. Then your success is number 1 after going through number 0.
I see.
And it's very satisfying. And I mean, beyond that, so much stuff comes through. So there has to be some just, hey, this is really interesting. And if it works, it could be really good. And, I try not to be delusional, but it's worked out pretty well.
So let me ask you a slightly different version of that question then. When you look at what you've done up to sort of that 22, 23 range, right? I think it fits into like normal emerging tech buckets, right? Like, okay, this is a tech, it's going up, yada, yada. Post AI, though, I feel like that equation gets a little bit different because, I mean, it has to, right? I mean, B2B, I like as well. I happen to share that love with you because I think in B2B, when you look at it through an AI lens, they're the ones who are the custodians of this data models or the data sources that you can do interesting stuff with data now that you couldn't do previous without an AI model underneath it. So what I'm seeing is like it changes what the business could be or wants to be or the direction business would take at all. Like, have you noticed any sort of shift in that lens of like, okay, companies are just doing fundamentally different things now than they were?
Yes and no. I mean, I invested in PowerSet, which was, I mean, there was a bunch of AI before LLMs for what it's
Yeah.
and now trying to think. I mean, I was in a bridge, the ambient listening for medical stuff, which has turned out pretty well. And a lot of companies are starting to use AI because for various reasons. It's, it's still, so I'm an investor in a company called SourceBase, which is basically a fact-checking and document analysis at scale company that is really interesting. It has to do with my past in journalism. Glenn Kessler, the fact checker, is involved with it. What else? I mean,
fact checking is one of those things. I mean, that's a great pond to jump into real quick. Like, fact checking is fundamentally different now within AI world because it can be good or bad, right? Like you can get shitty data
depending on how it's being filtered.
No, I'm not talking about filtering. Is a different thing. We do fact checking, and
but you have to get that from sources, don't you?
Yeah. So, but what happens if the AI is not? I guess I'm asking more about biasy of the person or the company holding.
And
the AI tech.
The facts we are checking is what. That's what I'm trying to say. It's okay. Very specific. It's not a content moderation tool.
Okay.
I say we want to know, did this person really say this? What is the source? I mean, it's very interesting if you look at laws. I mean, their market is journalism and law firms. So what does the law say? What do the depositions in the trial say? The person in the trial might have been lying, but it is true that they said this, and it was later adjudicated to be perjury.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, I gotcha. So
it's a tool for fact checkers. It's not a content moderation tool, so to speak.
I understand.
It's a tool, but it's not that service. And it's started by Ron Suskind, an investigative journalist who sort of knows the field.
Knows that field, yeah, sure.
And, I like to say I worship in the religion of journalism, but not in the church of media.
Wow. See, we do a T-shirt for we have this idea
that might be
T-shirts. That might be your T-shirt, like like the little snippet that comes out of it.
I mean, it's definitely one of them, and so PowerSet goes back. I was at this dinner at Kara Swisher's conference where Bill Gates. I was at dinner with Bill Gates, and he said, this is like 2007 or something. He said, the future of search is verbs.
Is verbs?
Yes.
Oh.
Opposed to nouns and facts.
Yeah.
In the end, what he was saying was the future of search is agents. But but that was really prescient. And PowerSet was sort of an AI search tool that I was an investor in that they bought. And so I felt like I had a bit of inside information. But this stuff goes back a long way.
And I know that it does. I mean, I was studying AI in college in the 90s, right? Like, I mean, but I think what I was aware of in the 90s was quite a bit different than what we would call AI now. So it's like almost like.
We're wrong not to call it all AI. AI itself is one of the world's fuzziest terms, but
it is definitely a fuzzy term, correct.
All logic and stuff is real and works. And I mean, the irony is I think people think more like LLMs than they think like, analytical, quote, the old AI of logic and symbols and
Yeah, for sure.
correlations and ontologies and stuff.
Yeah, Transformers really made a big difference in that, didn't it? I mean, I do agree with you. I think that, the joke I make about AI is it's like the job I've been training for my whole life, but didn't realize it, because I realized around January of 2023, when everybody else first started seeing generative AI out there, that my brain actually works like a LLM, like just naturally. Like that's how I process the world.
And that's how most people do. They go into a meeting, they come out, they can sort of glibly say stuff, and they still don't really know exactly what it means, but it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think it's funny. I mean, I actually have this whole like bubbling theory about AI is more of a metacognitive problem than a tactical problem, because I think that most of our clients anyway, and I'm speaking out the real retail level, if you will, right? Like the street level of this stuff, they're not really, it's not that they don't understand how to use the tools. That part they got easily, but they don't know how the tool needs to be dealt with. It's like they don't know how to drive that car.
Yeah, it's the couples counseling thing. They need to understand, they don't need to understand how the carburetor works, but they do need to understand what the car is going to do if they press the pedal or the steering wheel, or, if they accelerate down a hill.
Yeah. And so like, how do you, I mean, I guess if you had a sort of like overarching philosophy on this, does any of that stuff kind of help guide your opinion of these things? Because it feels like that's like a good construct for anything. It's not just really couples counseling, right? Like that's a good model in general.
A good model is understand the world, and also understand that, people keep asking for advice, and you can give good advice to somebody you know pretty well, but most advice is about what is good for the individual person, and then figure out the strategy for what that person needs versus, should you talk to the handsome stranger or not? Well, it depends. Are you looking for a fun evening or?
Right.
And people need to understand their own needs, and then the opportunities in front of them, and they need to understand what's really on offer versus what somebody might be saying or offering that isn't actually what they intended.
Right.
I have a finite amount of time. How do I choose how to spend my time? Well, it's partly, hey, I spent a lot of time in Russia. I just like to talk to Russian people. And we have a shared context. I'm interested in health, not so much interested in investment strategy. And just, what is it that will make me feel I've spent my time in an interesting way and ideally was understood enough to be helpful in that particular context?
And I think there's where the line gets blurred a lot, because I think when people realize certain things like about the power of AI, right, all of a sudden their goalpost is now moving from what their initial desire or objective was to, again, this infinite growth model where they're like, oh, but if we could do this, look at all these other things we could do that might be off topic or veering from their directives or anything. And it's like almost like a seductive sort of.
Yeah. And they end up with indigestion.
Yeah.
I mean, in some sense, so I have this concept of information diabetes, which sugar messes up with your metabolism, and ultra-processed information, and especially ultra-processed relationships, messes up with your ability to learn. The notion of consuming content, to me, is offensive. You should be interacting with information. You should be asking questions and learning, and not just absorbing the stuff that's without actually intellectually metabolizing it. And then there's, if you like, ultra processed money, which comes from doing stuff that, stuff that's meaningless, that or working for Meta or somebody knowing that you're actually harming children. But, oh, well, we owe it to our shareholders. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hate that, by the way. That whole excuse and answer is really obnoxious, and kind of harkens back to where I was going with that responsibility built in. One thing that I think we could learn from the aughts and the early teens of tech companies, a la Facebook, a la YouTube, is that they really didn't know that they needed to be responsible with that, because they didn't even know. I don't think
they'd asked their mother; she would have told them. But
you're right; they should have known, and at a certain point, they did know, and then deliberately obfuscated. So like that's where it gets like real kind of nefarious. But I guess now that we've sort of gotten past those initial architects of where we are now, like I'm wondering, I would love to see the spot in history where we actually just know going into it. I'm a 21-year-old guy right now starting my first company, and it's an AI based health company or whatever. Like my motives should be different at this point in time, right? Like it shouldn't be to recreate the dumpster fire of those earlier companies, but it should be different. And I guess I'm always looking for validation that that's happening or not happening. I'm just curious. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it does. And those are the ones I invest in. And the ones I
yeah,
make sure whose money you take.
Sure.
Because it's, in the end, it's the last money in. It's not even the investors you've got, but the ones you're trying to please to bring in new money.
Right.
That end up determining the deal. And that's why private equity is so damaging.
Yeah, right.
When at the end, when you think you desperately need them and they're going to destroy you.
I saw you were on 23andMe for a while. Like, I don't know if you still are or not, but like that's another one of those things that I thought was going in a good direction, and then it just sort of didn't.
It's much more complicated than that.
Okay.
So I was on the board from quite early, and yes, they got more focused on making money.
Right.
But they did not. The one thing they did that really was okay. The big mistake they made, they adhered to their privacy principles. You will hear that they didn't, but they did. They did suffer a breach, and they did not announce it quickly enough, and that was a real mistake. But it's now being sold to Anne Wojcicki, who started it.
Yeah,
a good steward, but they are still bound by the contracts they signed with every user. We will use your data for this or for nothing or for research or whatever it is. Those can't be breached by the new owner. So
I love hearing that, just because I actually kept all my data there. I didn't
move anything. I was like, I guess I could pull it down, but it's probably too late.
I don't.
It's like if you commit a murder and leave some saliva around, forgive me, but you probably.
Those are the dumbest arguments in my mind, because people are always like, you don't want the world knowing about your DNA. I'm like, look, I'm not doing shit that I need to care. Like, I don't really.
Your DNA isn't going to say what you're doing. It's only going to say who you are.
Yeah, no, I get it. But and if one of my relatives committed a heinous act and they can catch that person through my 23andMe sample, then more power to you. He's kind of a jerk anyway. Yeah. So that's not something I'd ever worry about. But Esther, as you might imagine, I've gotten it, and I'm sure you've had more than one conversation that goes with these Luddites in this kind of way. And 23andMe, by the way, I just wanted to say, is the most exciting thing I think that's happened health-wise in my entire life, because the whole idea of that was so incredibly cool that I just want that still to succeed. It's like just a neat thing that you can be able to do.
And it's fascinating information about yourself, and
totally.
But there's so much more actionable stuff. What excites me now is more, it's what is really needed is not more medicine, it's better care.
Yeah.
We pretty much know what people should be doing. There's lots of specifics about rare diseases and so forth and so on, but nutrition and, again, child care, loving care, training people to be better humans is so much more important than all the rest of the stuff.
Yeah,
And
23andMe can't make you a better parent, but
no.
yeah.
But knowing that the kid is yours.
Yeah. It's a good start.
But I mean, that's all about evolution. We evolved to love our children. And when we start loving our phones more than we love our kids, or we start paying more attention to our phones than we do to our kids, that's when the damage starts.
Yeah, and that's the toughest lesson that I keep trying to teach my kids. To my knowledge, you don't have teenage children, Esther, but
nephews, lots of them.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, it's tough raising, I've got 2 teenage kids in the house. So does Tom. And it is
so addictive.
And the biology guy in me knows that, like, every time they look at that phone, they're intentionally being dopamine triggered. I mean, neurochemically, I know exactly what's happening. And you can't, just like that person in couples therapy, you can't go into somebody who's having like a full on meltdown and say, it's all about your reaction. You have to ease into that. Like, that's the right answer, but you can't just like jump into that part.
The right approach is you just need to calm down.
Yeah.
Is, what are you getting out of this?
Yeah.
And
but maybe no one's receptive at that point.
But I'm also wondering, because clearly, and you're onto it right there, they're getting something, but they're probably not even aware of it. It's done in such a way that dopamine fix is expected, but they're not necessarily aware that they're searching for that.
Of course not. But that's why you have to ask them that question. What are you getting out of this? What will you get out of reading a book and asking some interesting questions, or calling up your grandmother, or I don't know what. I mean, again, this is, as a human, you know so much more about your kid than any machine does. Mm-hmm. So you can ask them better questions about what they might prefer to do.
Yeah. What I did notice with my youngest is that she's become a voracious reader. In fact, for the snow day we just had, I know, it's great. For the snow day we just had, her and her friend did a 24-hour readathon. So they literally, and they paused it so they can go to sleep. They weren't quite that hardcore, but they're young. But they literally read for 24 hours on a timer. Teen novels, like, I don't know, there's all these series they're into right now. There's a big push in my house for ice dancing couples in the teenage, genre, right? Like, they're just, he's a hockey player, she's an ice dancer, and like they get together, it's like that kind of silly stuff. But like, there's series, and there's 4 books, 5 books, whatever in a series, and they'll burn through a series. And I'm like, look, this is better than TikTok, no question. I don't love that it's kind of, I don't know. It'd be, in my mind, I never read fiction. I was always more of a nonfiction kind of guy. But hey, that's my situation, not everybody's, right? But she will go from that to like a 2-hour bout with TikTok fluidly, like effortlessly. It will just flip flop, and it's just kind of interesting that her whole friend genre does the same thing. It's like we can get real into this thing that we all want to encourage, but then we can also flip the script and do it. So kind of that Chinese proverb, good news, bad news, who can say kind of thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's like their way of finding balance in this. I don't understand.
I would say your daughter's probably an anomaly there, though, because we have to put a timer on our 16-year-old. Is like, I can handle it. No, you absolutely can't. We see how long each app is open, which is why you have 15 minutes on these 3 things.
Right.
So my father ended up marrying our au pair girl.
Okay.
My brother ran off with somebody. And I remember I was like 8 or 9 years old, and I read The Diary of Anne Frank. And my father came into the study, and I said, it's amazing how Anne Frank ended up, just this amazing coincidence, in this attic where the guy she was clearly fated to fall in love with, just how amazing. And he said, sweetie, sometimes you fall in love because the person is there. It's
right.
It's yes, it was meant to happen, but it could have happened in so many other ways. And reading that book and sort of seeing my family with these new eyes, and they were married until 2020 when he died. I mean, she was such a wonderful mother.
Oh, wow.
I mean, she's still around, but it's like the world is not what happens to you, it's what you make of it.
Sure.
And it's the people, you don't necessarily decide to love them, but you build that love and make it better. And that was from a book.
Yeah. And I think, what you're touching on there, like more broadly, is what I think is going to be our next sort of like boom, which is community. Like I'm involved with, I don't know, half a dozen projects right now that are in between infancy and production. All of them have a community component. That's the first time in 27 years that I've been running a technology company that anybody has put this much focus into the same thing. And they're all across different disciplines. But that's not uninteresting, right? Like just at a 100,000 foot view, why are these people making,
How do you make it happen?
Yeah. How do you make it happen? And it's really fascinating. Tom and I actually had somebody on the show who has a psychedelic church out in Utah, but it's like 10,000 people now. They sold burial plots to put your body on the top of the ground. They put a bunch of psilocybin spores on it, and 12 days later, you're gone. And there's a whole bunch of mushrooms in your place. And it sold out in the first day it was open.
Yeah, within hours.
It was like instantaneously. And why is that? Because 10,000 people are in a community of shared vision, shared ideals, shared values, shared community. And this is something that they all valued, and it was instantaneously taken. They bought 650 acres, and they're going to do more of that now. And I think outside of cults and such, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whenever they're cult there, you don't really see that sort of like digging in. But now I'm seeing it across so many disciplines, and it's becoming the rule, not the exception. And that is different.
So do the families of that graveyard communicate with one another and reminisce together? Or
I don't know. Yeah, well, they're all in this communal church environment, right? So like I'm sure that there's that. Yeah. Tom and I's question was, do you get to eat the mushrooms that was off of Grandpa?
I would assume you do need to.
Like that would be a little weird, right? I mean, but also that's also a question we've never had these sort of.
Well, man, there's been weird ancestral veneration practices throughout the globe, and certainly eating mushrooms off a body is better than eating the organs, which
has been
some cultures have done. Yeah. I'm sorry, Esther.
Yeah.
My mind goes weird places. I'm not.
Well, we know somebody who helped participate in a cannibal ritual, which they just ate a little finger donated to the cause. But there's people out there that are still doing crazy stuff, and I think eating mushrooms off of Grandpa is probably the least weird thing that you could think of out there in the pantheon of weird. So Esther, on the health side, just because we are a health show, I'm curious, is there something in particular that's got you kind of like thinking, like what is future health in its perfect form? Not perfect. I caught myself. What does health look like in an evolved form for you in the future? Like, where are we heading?
It's paid for collectively, for starters.
Okay.
It's something you have to fund on your own. The second thing,
that means we just got cut from YouTube. Thanks, Esther. No, kidding.
That is honestly, Matt, that one would be the best one to ever get cut for.
Yeah,
that's the only one I would have agreed with so far.
Yeah.
So for my newsletter release went out, I interviewed this guy called Charlie Silver. He had this, towards the end of the newsletter, which was 1982 to 2007, I started getting more and more interested in health. And so Charlie Silver had this website, realage.com, which...
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Cheesy website. They sell vitamin supplements, but the basic thesis was to measure your quote real age versus your chronological age, and they wouldn't ask you about sort of the serious, racism, poverty stuff, but they would ask, do you have children? Do you have a loving partner? What's your diet like? And do you exercise? And then they would give you your real age. And he ended up selling it to Hearst, and Hearst sold it to ShareCare. What was so interesting about the story was who he sold his previous business to. And that was Jiffy Lube.
Wow.
Maintenance. And it's like, yes, we take better care of our cars than we do of our health. And it made me realize, maintenance. And Stuart Brand, The Well and Whole Earth Catalog, he's just got a new book out called The Maintenance of Everything, which is well worth reading. It's so much better to keep something in good shape than it is to let it deteriorate and then do a repair job when it's too late.
Yeah.
So
that's an interesting philosophy, or like vantage point, I should say. Yeah.
It's so obvious when you think of it, and so hard for humans to do. I mean, it's easier to take your car in than it is to get up every morning and go swimming, as I actually do.
Sure.
It's some understanding. Again, you need to start with the kids and with child care. And honestly, if you could fix the parents, the children would be perfect. But, you can't go back forever. But going forward, just thinking about that more carefully. I mean, somehow my notion of mandatory parent training isn't going to work.
No, because if there is, I'll be an investor in that company for sure.
What we have lost in some sense is churches, and we used to have home ec in high school, and when you got married, your pastor or rabbi or whoever it was would sit you down and say, this is what you're getting into. Are you ready? And do you really love each other? And do you understand your duties as a parent? And, we've gotten, I would say, a little too individualistic in our philosophies. Nobody should be told how to do anything. And, no, it should not be, there shouldn't be laws requiring you to do stuff like that. But your society and your culture, it's what's needed to have healthy children that grow up not getting seduced by all these seductive things around.
It's funny, you hit the nail like on the head for me just now, because I think there is I don't want to say court of public opinion, but there's a tribal sort of law to a lot of these things that I think has been sort of shoved under the carpet, and people are like, well, no, I should be able to have any view or vantage point or do anything I want, which is legally kind of true outside of a crime, but it's not tribally true, right? Like, that's you have the right to, but we're going to, ordinarily we would have pushed you to not do that. Now we don't even do that. So it is really like a bunch of NO1s running.
I mean, and for what it's worth, my parents were great, and I don't know what they did exactly. They certainly, there was the rule you couldn't read at the dinner table or even at breakfast. So I used to read the cereal boxes.
Yeah, that's funny.
But, when I was 14 and 15, I wanted to run away. But I couldn't find any reason to, because my parents were so reasonable.
Right. I know this is what I'm supposed to do at 14, but I
want to rebel, but there really is nothing to rebel against.
Yeah. And I rode my bike everywhere. Then I decided it was complicated. I lived in this bubble. I wanted to get out of the bubble, and I decided I wanted to go to college a year early, and they said, okay, we need the bedroom for the other kids.
Yeah. So empathetic.
Then I got to college, and it was great. I passed as a teenager, even though I was so young. And because where I grew up was the Institute for Advanced Study, which was this sort of academic paradise, but they had no idea of what teenagers were.
I'm sure, yeah.
After my first semester, they said, we're so proud we let you in here. You were such a smart little girl, but your grades are pretty terrible. If you want to take some time off, we will welcome you back. So I took half a year off and hitchhiked through Europe, and then went to Morocco to live with my boyfriend, who had joined the Peace Corps. And my parents, if you get in trouble, we won't come and get you out of jail. If you get pregnant, we won't take care of the baby. But we love you and have a good time and be sensible. And
I don't think you are such a rarity in that, where I'm looking at my 16-year-old now going like, I don't know if I want her to drive.
Yeah.
like I'm terrified.
Yeah. I never actually learned how to drive because I left home before I was of age.
That would have happened. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now New York, I know people that have been in New York City for 40 years, never got a driver's license, it's like, so,
I just been waiting for Uber and.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. You don't really need to. It's like one of those things where like, okay. I had a friend once who her driver's license had expired for years and she had no idea and she never drove. And then she had to actually go drive somewhere. She goes, I think this is like 6 years expired. it's just kind of funny because everyone else would think like, how would you ever let that happen? You're like, I don't know. Here, it's not a big deal. I don't need to go anywhere. Right. Cab to the airport. And then I go somewhere else. It's fine. But you know what though? Those experiences, Esther, were I think where we're not getting to anymore. Tom not wanting his daughter to drive is not uncommon these days. And it's not because he doesn't trust her, I'm sure, but it's because the world's fucked up.
Oh, it's a little
of both. It's a little bit of both. Yeah.
It's like, I'll take the risk. I don't want you to take the risk.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a normal feeling. I mean, that's not bad. On the other hand, you're not going to forbid her to learn, right? You're going to.
No, absolutely not. No.
Fasten your seatbelt, but life consists of learning and taking risks and doing new things. And I learned how to cook in Morocco.
Wow, yeah.
Where else?
Yeah, you're not going to Burger King. There's no Uber Eats out there in Morocco, I'm sure. Well, now they're probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, now.
Not in 1969.
Yeah, no, probably not. Yeah, I looked at one of our developers is over in Pakistan. There's like a Dunkin' Donuts across the street from his office. So I feel like
that was the biggest bummer going to Egypt and seeing the KFC across from the Sphinx. It was literally across the street.
My favorite was in Kiev. This was long ago. Beirut fried chicken.
Beirut fried chicken. Oh, okay.
Famous for their fried chicken.
Famous for their fried chicken. Yeah. I don't know. There's got to be a joke in there somewhere, but it's probably in bad taste. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah. So Esther, I could talk to you about this stuff all day. Let's do we want to talk at all about your book? Is it too early to talk about your book?
No, I mean, I could go on forever about that. It's I mean, there's just so much interesting stuff happening. And what I'm trying to do is get people. So another one of my mottos is a big Q, an ampersand, and a little a. Yeah, the interesting stuff isn't the answers, because again, they partly depend on you. They depend on things changing, and the real question is, what can you do to make the answer different? But what does this mean, and how can we take advantage of what it means rather than passively let some other people do the wrong things? And it's so much about how we raise the next generation. Somewhat randomly, I was talking to the number 2 guy for Alexei Navalny, the Russian dissident who basically got killed under the Putin regime, and his widow, Yulia Navalnaya. And they're doing a bunch of things. They've obviously left Russia, and they have this conference of noted experts in sort of political action and what to do. And I've been, in the last month, I've been to 2 or 3 sort of OG celebrations, 30 years of New York City tech, and the think tank closing down after 43 years of wonderful work, with all these old people And what the Navalny team are doing is bringing in young people so that if they ever have a chance to go back to Russia without getting poisoned,
Right.
they can help build a new society
Mm.
and do it right. That to me was inspiring. I mean, that's what you want to do. And in a sense, that's what Alexei passed on to his wife and to Leonid, the other number 2 guy. And that's what they're passing on to the next generation, how to do it better than we did. And, not saying we blame ourselves, but how do we stop the circumstances from repeating themselves? So there's that. There's thinking about what it does to work. And again, we can liberate all the people who went into healthcare because they wanted to take care of other people
Mm-hmm.
and ended up taking care of paperwork. Let the AI do paperwork, but don't fire these workers. Now they get to do what they really wanted to do, which was to spend time helping people be healthy, to spend time listening to them and discovering not just, what's going on with your pancreas, but what's going on with your life. Do you have a refrigerator to keep the meds in? Do you have enough time to exercise every morning? Do you have enough time to speak to your kids, or are you on your cell phone? And so we need to help people do more human jobs, not say, oh, you're being replaced. Then what else? So many
By the
organizations.
way, this is coming on a day after Amazon
Laid off
like 7,000 people
Yeah.
or some insane thing. Home Depot just laid off 800 people. Like, again, it's an odd week to have that conversation come out, right? I mean,
it's a good week because we should look at that and say, what could they have done better?
Sure. That's a good point.
How could they help the Home Depot people be better counselors to people buying repair stuff? I don't know.
God only knows. They could have taken one of those 800 people, put it in every store, and that would have been one more person that we could talk to, because those stores are notorious.
Those stores are empty. They're ghost towns.
Yeah, they're ghost towns, right? You're like, oh.
Yeah. Another thing, so nonprofits, this whole notion of term limits, it's not, the whole point of this is it's not just about politicians. It's what did you build your business for? And even more importantly, what did you build your nonprofit for? It should be to go out of business by solving the problem.
Right.
So many nonprofits become wedded to the problem. And, just like healthcare, they don't pay to prevent diabetes, but they pay to fix it or deal with it. And, these organizations, as they get larger, there are more people inside who keep talking to one another, and they sort of, their main purpose is to keep the organization growing rather than, to deliver whatever it is they're delivering more effectively. And the smaller the company is, the more people you have facing the outside, and those people need the human capacity to talk to other humans, whether they're salespeople or support people or ambassadors or whatever. But again, we don't need more people. We need happier people. And I think, the fact that many countries aren't growing in the number of people is not a tragedy. But those people need to be more interested in other people. And, and we should welcome immigrants, because they're actually, the ones that probably didn't have the STEM education and are interested in doing human jobs and making, going to museums and having somebody tell you about the interesting stuff. Teachers, we're short of good teachers. Everybody knows that a class of 10 is much better than a class of 30. And we just need to value that better and sort of change how we price things and how we value them. And
it's funny when you said it earlier in GDP, the number one freak out about population decline has nothing to do with people. It has everything to do with GDP. They're like, if I lose population, I
we don't
lose
have the
GDP.
labor.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute.
The other thing is GDP itself. I mean, it's ironic, but this whole chronological age thing, it's kind of like GDP. You know, the GDP is also not a single number.
Mm-hmm.
It consists of everything from cigarettes and guns, which I think should be subtracted from the GDP.
Right.
And things that are of value. And then, like crypto, is all of Oscar Wilde, 100 plus years ago, had a play in which somebody said of someone else, he knew the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Mm.
And the GDP is similarly, it's like a body. It has all these interacting parts, and they interact with one another, but they're really measured. You know, the output of the pancreas is not tradable for the output of the lungs.
Right. Yeah. That's funny.
So just how we think about all this stuff ultimately influences what we do, and how we think about the value of people influences how we pay them. So I'd also like to see a tax. You know, we have taxes for water rights and land mining rights and air rights based mostly on the revenues you generate from them. And I think we need to have a tax based on the revenues the LLM companies generate from using what is fundamentally public collective asset of information on the web.
And that is a 5-hour conversation we could have on that, because like I'm with you, and I think this is going to be that whole Facebook moment in 10 years from now, that we can look back at the dawn of Facebook and YouTube and be like, wow, these algorithms really got away from everybody, and then there was this whole thing to cover it up. I feel like LLMs are going to have that same moment retrospectively, where it's like, look, you stole a bunch of shit and then made billions of dollars on it.
Yeah. And it's not that, I mean, it's not copyright, because just because you said it first, I mean, if you want to copyright your material, fine, and protect it and then sell it, great. But if you put it out there and it's paid for with advertising, it is not yours. It's a collective asset. And
oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's again like the difference between artisanal and ultra processed food, artisanal and ultra processed content, because that stuff is barely even information. It's content.
Sure. Yeah.
She said scathing.
No. I mean, it's an interesting perspective, just because like I know so much of the conversation is the opposite side of that. That like every syllable I've ever copyrighted is sacrosanct, and like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, okay, well, that feels, I didn't have words to put to it, but it felt incorrect, because I'm like, yeah, it's copywritten, but like, you can't copyright like the sun or the air or trees, like it, you know what I mean? Like there's a certain collectiveness to stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, I will send you a document afterwards from my lawyer about the words I said.
About the words you said? Yeah. I see. I'm sorry. You got me that shit. I'm sorry. I'm like, what?
I'm surprised it took you that long, Matt.
Yeah, sorry.
I was like, I got it. I got it.
Well, Esther, I really love that you took time out of your day to come talk to us. I think, honestly, my initial intuition was right. Having a conversation with people that are just thinking about these things at all, let alone intelligently, is a dialogue that not only I personally want to keep doing through the remainder of my life, but I think if we all kind of got down that road a little bit more, like your counseling example, like your reactions would have to change, right? Like, I mean, knowledge and discourse are going to force those changes. And I just think we just kind of lost sight of that. Personally, thank you very much.
Thank you, Esther.
Wonderful 3-way conversation.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Esther, is there anywhere we can send people to look you up, or is there a place that you'd like to interact with?
I mean, the best place right now is probably LinkedIn.
Got it.
I've got a Substack, but I'm going to start activating it more.
Awesome.
And edventure.com is my website, which we're also redoing.
Okay.
ED. So it's like everything else, it's a pun.
Yeah.
ED, my initials, venture.com.
Got it.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll put all that in the show notes, and that's awesome. And
actually, let me know a day or two in advance, and I'll do any updates and stuff.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Not a problem. We'll talk to you that after. But in the meantime, have a great weekend. Thank you again so much. It was really nice, and enjoy.
Thank you both. Take care.
Take care.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.